No clap for me in this time, but we're back. Really, really exciting episode to have Anthony on. I know, like, I watch you a lot. It's good to have you on. I know we've done some stuff together in the past. So it's good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Mikey, Ian. It's good to be here on the Brothers of the World podcast. Would have been nicer with 3 points, but I'm here to discuss the healthy draw. It was a healthy draw. We'll stay positive.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was thinking coming out of it. Like, it's not one of these where I'm like, oh, like, that's a wasted opportunity. But Ian, how are you feeling? You feeling the same way or what?
Man, I'm still sick. I almost fell asleep during the match, so
So no hype on your end.
no hype. The only hype I had was when Handanovic was making saves. So
Oh yeah, your agenda progresses, but yeah, really dull draw. I mean, I think it's kind of I was kind of going into it expecting something like this. I think on Serpents and Madonina, I did the preview for this match and I wrote, like, I said 2-1 because I wasn't gonna go for like a 0-0. Nobody goes for a 0-0, but it's not a very surprising result given playing Lazio, Juventus for 120 minutes, and now Atalanta in like a week's span. I mean, 4 points and a trophy out of that. I don't think you can turn your nose too far up at that one. Anthony, how are you feeling after this week? Is it a lot? Are you tired? Tired with
You
Inter?
said
Has
it.
it been up and down?
You said it perfect, man. And I remember saying it about a week ago. If we come out of this week with 4 points and a trophy, I'm not going to complain. And that's exactly what we did. We won one of those two games against Lazio and Atalanta that could have been banana slips. We got the Super Coppa, which I'm still hyped over. It was a fantastic morning, evening, wherever you watched it. And to come out today knowing that we were the better side against Atalanta, in any other day, Eden Dzeko needs to bury one of those chances, and we'd walk out of there today with another 3 points. So it's still all optimism from me, especially when you look at our fixtures coming up. We have a very winnable home fixture against Venezia, and then after that, we have a little short break before the derby. And I think everybody's got one eye on that at the moment because just like it was last season, it could be the push that either of these sides needs to carry it on. Overall, though, I'm still feeling good after watching today's game because I think most of our players still put in a decent shift against a very, very tough opponent. Handanovic had an absolutely electric game in goals. He was fantastic. I think Ivan Perisic's defensive contribution today was one of his best defensive contributions I've ever seen for Inter. It was fantastic. Marcelo Brozovic once again showed how lucky we are to be extending his contract. At least we're about 95% sure that that's going to happen. And yeah, still no complaints. The only thing is that I'm looking back at these two games with Atalanta, 2 points that could have really been 6 though, because we were the better side in both of the fixtures.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that you're right on the head right there. Like, the only thing we were missing was the goal, whether it was the Dzeko chances. D'Ambrosio had a really good chance. I think those are the ones off the top of my head that I remember. But if any of those had gone in, we're talking about a different match. We're talking about 6 out of 6 and a trophy in a week. But I'm not gonna go too negative because I mean I think it was a really good game everywhere, but in the final third we were just unlucky. I mean, like, the
Yeah.
defense was great. Muriel starting, like, most of the time when you see a team is missing their main striker, someone like Duvan Zapata, you're like, all right, that's a break. But then when it's Luis Muriel coming off the bench, who always scores against Inter, you're like, oh, like, let's just keep this guy to 1 goal, hopefully, and we'll get 2 and try to cancel him out. But I thought it was a good move on Inzaghi's part to go for Skriniar in the middle of the back three. Kind of to counteract with Muriel. I mean, he would follow Muriel out to the wings a lot, but like I felt more secure having a guy like Skriniar in the middle for that. Like you said, Perisic, great game. Darmian, decent game. I think he had a chance that he missed. The midfield, Brozovic had a lot of pressure on him in this match. A lot like the last match against Juve, a lot of pressure. I mean, he had Kulusevski right up on him the whole match. And then this match, it was just, Atalanta's team pressure, which is always really tough. But yeah, Ian, you want to give some Handanovic praise? Where do you want to go? I know that's your guy, that's your countryman. You're always here defending him.
yeah, man, he comes from the same part of the town as I do as well. So it's really, really nice to see him perform. One of us who made it actually in the world. Who would have thought as a Slovenian? No, but I think he had a really good game. I mean, I saw some great saves with his feet, with his hand. The defense for me was a bit too shaky. I saw some of the players being out of position. I think that is expected with the way we play, with Bastoni and the right center back usually overlapping. Today we saw Bastoni, D'Ambrosio pretty much playing as strikers again, which I find encouraging to know. They have it in the locker. We saw D'Ambrosio get some chances to score, to shoot as well. But it wasn't the. We just need a clinical man with a killer instinct. It's what I talked with Dave on it on the timeline. We really need a clinical man. With Lukaku gone, you have Dzeko, who was supposed to be that, but like we see at the beginning of the season, he was that. At the beginning of the season, he was really, really good in my opinion. Now he's kind of burnt out since we don't really have a good substitute for him, if I could say that. I mean, we see that Correa and Sanchez are not really working together, not gelling together, we don't really have a striker of Dzeko's profile to play with his back, with his size, with his strength, with his heading ability. We saw him miss 3-4 headers today. That could have really been a goal had we had Lukaku or someone else who is a good target man. But other than that, I think it was a great performance considering we had a tough match against Lazio. We had a very tough match against Juventus that went into overtime. If you gave me 7 days back, if you gave me this information, 4 out of 6 points and a trophy, sign it off, man. Sign it off. No complaints from me.
Yeah, I've seen that as an overwhelming sentiment on the timeline. And I think, we can all agree. You take that trophy and you take a draw here, you're not giving an advantage to a direct opponent. I don't mind draws in big matches when you're ahead of the team that you're playing. It's a top 4, challenge right there. But if you're ahead and you keep that barrier, even if you're keeping it at the same length, I don't mind it at all. Well, I guess we'll still have to see what happens with those Bologna points. I don't know when any kind of news is supposed to happen with that, but I know they didn't appeal. So, that could be 3 more points. We're still on top, but provisionally, I think Milan can go top tomorrow. That'll be a little annoying, but not too worried. And then, the derby, right up the road. That's going to be very big match, title deciding type deal. But Anthony, we've talked about it many a time. I know you've talked about it on your spaces many a time as well. The lack of clinical finishing that plagues this team at times. Is there a solution within the squad, or is this just, we're going to have to keep creating an ungodly amount of chances and eventually one just goes in, and then you're going to have nights like tonight where it just doesn't?
Yeah, it's a tough one because in terms of creating chances last season and this season, we're amongst Europe's elite. I don't think there are many teams in Europe that create more chances than Inter do. Converting them is a different story. However, Inzaghi's got this luxury where he's able to test and rotate players and pretty much wait for the shoe to fit properly on whatever day of the week that it comes. I think we've identified this as the target region that really needs reinforcing properly. So we've already heard the names like Raspadori, like Scamacca, Julian Alvarez come out in the news, and that tells us that they're working. At least they're working. Sorry if you can hear my dog taking a big drink of water. Sorry about that. But basically, I wanted to reiterate and draft on from that point, man. Alexis Sanchez, everyone was gassing him up the last 2-3 weeks. I was cautious. I was giving him his credit where it's due, but people need to understand, coming off the bench for 20, 30 minutes at that age, you are always going to look like a prime, pristine, brand new supercar. When you start the game, especially against a side like Atalanta, it's cagey, man. It's tight. And Alexis Sanchez has shown us that when he does start the game, he does fail to get the ball through the nooks and crannies, through the lines, because he doesn't have that freedom. He's very tightly congested, very tightly marked. The game has failed to open up just yet. So today, when a lot of people were sort of getting on Alexis Sanchez, I wasn't, but I wasn't surprised. And I was trying to tell people, this is what you're going to get from Alexis unless he's starting against a really poor side. He will be caged and he will be frustrating. He will give the ball away a lot. And that's what he did today. I think that he could have taken that chance a bit better but it was a great save from Musso when Hakan played it through to him. However, I do think there was a foul on Muriel from Barella before. So if Sanchez had nailed that goal in the first half, I have a very strong feeling it would have been called back for a foul anyway. Other than that, to make a long story short for yourself, once again, we've identified that Dzeko, he'll be here next season. That'll be it. And he'll be on the bench next season. I think our real beef, even if we're not talking about it, Mikey and Ian, it's a little bit with Lautaro. It really is. Like, I love Lautaro. I think he's a great player, but we are expecting him to lead the line now. And he's not looking like a player that's ready to lead the line week in, week out, the same way a Romelu Lukaku was. You know, Lukaku was the player where you play him every 3 days and you can guarantee he'll get him on the score sheet. Now it's Lautaro, maybe 1 every 3 or 4 games he's coming off and we're applauding him going, that's the Lautaro we know, that's the Lautaro we need. Is 1 in 4 enough? Next season it won't be, boys. I'm telling you right now, it won't be. And in this economy, in this market, our contract bump for Lautaro could very well mean a sale over the next year and a half, to which I would not be completely opposed to if the price is right. We've got the luxury of only needing to tweak 1 or 2 things in this side to be a real proper force. As long as Marotta's at the helm, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think we've not really dove into it here on our pod about, the inconsistency of Lautaro and how he could go. I think he could, and if he does, I mean, it's not going to be the most painful transfer. I mean, we've already had the Band-Aid ripped off a couple of times now, so I don't think any names leaving are going to kill anymore. But yeah, I mean, I've always thought that he is a better striker when he is, the support guy, when he is the Robin to someone's Batman. That's not, trying to take away from him, but that's just his consistency in front of goal is different than his play in build up or in press, which is world class. His finishing still not 100%. But you mentioned Marotta, and that's a big deal too. He announced pretty much today that he's got an agreement with Inter, to extend his contract for 3 more years, I believe it is. So that's one of Inter's biggest possible signings, keeping that guy around. We'll be in good hands. We'll find another striker. We'll get the money that we could get for Lautaro if that comes to pass. Yeah, as long as he's here, I feel like we're in good hands. Let me get a couple of these comments. I wanted to get to...
Not only that, like with Marotta, the rest of the backroom staff will get their bump as well, like Auxilio and co. So sorry about the helicopter as well. Sorry about this, but
no
as long as they're in the backroom, you can almost guarantee that we'll be using our funds sparingly but appropriately. When you lose players like Lukaku and Hakimi, everybody was very scared of how you replace the 2 of the most informed players in the league or in Europe in their position. And he's done an amazing job of doing that. I dare say today, Denzel Dumfries was one of the players on the pitch today that I was not worried about one bit. He has really grown into this role in his side. He's looking like a fantastic player, and I expect nothing less. The Dutch are a very disciplined bunch of people, let alone athletes, and this is the former PSV captain that we've taken here for 12.5 million. It's an absolute steal. So big up, Denzel.
Yeah, I saw some people getting on him today, and in his short appearance, I mean, Darmian, of course, started, but I don't worry about him anymore. I mean, there are times where I think he takes maybe a touch or 2 too many, but I mean, it's still a learning curve. So, I mean, I'll still give him grace for that for a while, but if it comes like another year from now and we're sitting here and we're, having breaks, ended by him turning around and playing it back, or if we've got still hitting the first man with those low crosses, I think that would be an issue. But for now, he's still on a good trajectory. He's still adjusting and he's doing very well. I don't worry about him at all. I didn't really worry about anybody too much today. I thought even Correa, when he came on, I thought he started to do the things we know we need him to do. He got on the ball a couple of times and dribbled through the channels. I mean, it didn't come to anything, but that's something we need, and we need him to get more playing time, because the only way that he's going to get back into a player that is a threat is by playing. And then you're going to have some lumps. You're going to have some matches where you're like, well, or appearances like this, not full matches. If it's full match, it's an issue at that point. But I think Correa should turn, be fine. I know he left during his best match, came out with injury against Roma, and is still coming back from that. And that could be something that Correa Lautaro could still be something that I don't think has been fully explored yet. I think that could be a big up for the attack. But neither of those guys are the goal scorer that Lukaku was, that Icardi before him was. So it's still tough up front, but I didn't worry about them today. Hristo here said, Oh,
Sorry,
let me get here.
can I just
Yeah,
touch on
yeah,
that?
go ahead. Yeah, go
We
ahead.
expect Lautaro to be this number one striker, to be this clinical finisher, but we have to remember that he's only 24. I mean, yeah, he's been at the club for 4 years, but the most clinical, the most informed strikers usually are from the 28th year upward. You know, you see Benzema and Lewandowski still scoring goals at, what was it, 34, 35, 36 years old. I don't mind that he is still learning and playing that second fiddle to the number one guy, if the number one guy does his job. Right now, they're not doing it as much. You can't rely on the 36-year-old Dzeko, who, while he did have that one impressive sprint that I think he could pull a hamstring on. I mean, that was lightning fast, but um, I don't think Dzeko is the top guy. Now, Christo in the comments said Dybala's captaincy next season will benefit us.
Oh, come on.
Dybala and Lautaro striker partnership. That
Yeah,
could
I
be.
still think there's a lot. There's still a lot between now and then. I personally, with the Dybala stuff, I don't see him leaving. I see him getting that contract. Of course, there was more speculation fueled by the him glaring at their management after he scored yesterday. But yeah, Anthony, what's your take on the Dybala stuff? I just want to hear. I haven't heard this.
I don't think Beppe Marotta has any interest in Paulo Dybala. I think Beppe is very interested in making sure Juventus max out that contract for him. They can see that his heart and his head is not in Turin. I mean, the Juventus fans can say all they want that, he's a leader and he's their future captain. I know a lot of Juventus fans that actually do have their head screwed on and they do not want this guy to get a new contract whatsoever. This does not encompass what the club is about. However, you also cannot let him leave for free to your biggest rivals who just knocked you off your perch. It's insulting, it's humiliating, and it's degrading. So now they're caught between a rock and a hard place, and the rock seems to be Dybala moving to Inter. The hard place is an 8.5 or an 8 million contract per season, whatever it is that's on the table. Could even be a little bit more. If Inter were to pull off a free transfer for Dybala, I would be elated for banter reasons and obviously for on the pitch reasons. I feel like Inzaghi would be able to get a phase out of Dybala that Allegri's struggling to. However, at the same time, I agree with you. I do think he's probably going to get his contract extension at Juve, and I'm fine with that as well because they're bleeding as well financially. And it's Dybala. He's their best player. Why did they not have it sorted in October? Why didn't they sort it in November? Why are they saying there's a meeting rescheduled for March? This is taking too long. Way too long. We're living in a time where Dybala and the players now have most of the power. This guy is 4 months away from being a free agent. You really don't think Madrid, Barca, Paris, England, they'll all come for him. He will have 10 offers by the second day, and he knows that as well. So rock in a hard place. It's a win-win for us. It's a lose-lose for Juventus either way, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is something to take into account. Juve's financial situation. We always think of them as, the most financially stable club because of, their backing. But they really mismanage a lot of contracts. The mismanagement of this Dybala situation now is probably the biggest issue because, they've lost players in the past, but losing someone like Dybala would symbolically be the end of an era of Juventus, that era where, they're making Champions League finals. They're walking to the Scudetto every year. Like we, as, people who watch Serie A all the time know that these cracks have been forming for years, but to the rest of the footballing world, they're really starting to see a downfall of what looked like, one of the most serious clubs. And to take it back to talking about Marotta before, that's where it all began. And that's where it's all ending now. And that's why we're, in the best position, I believe, in Serie A right now. And, we're looking at where we could be making a run for 3, 4, 5 Scudetti. Like that I don't think that's out of the question, especially either way with the Dybala transfer or not transfer. Like either he's making too much money, your wage bill is just stuffed with Dybala and then a bunch of overpaid mediocre players, or it's a bunch of overpaid mediocre players and no Dybala. That's a lose-lose, like you said. You really hit the nail on the head. I really like that. I hear first talking about Skamaka here. I don't like the talk about Skamaka. Maybe I'm coming out. Maybe this is a bad time to say it, but I'm not the
He's
biggest
too
fan of him.
expensive, Mikey. He's too
Yeah,
expensive for what he offers in a mid-table club. We're in this day and age where you have half a good season and your price tag goes from 15 million to 40 million. It's a joke. You can't do that, man. 40 million is the type of money that you go and put forward for like a really world-class striker that's proven in Europe. I know maybe not so much these days. You have to pay a little bit more, but I don't think anybody's looking to pay 35, 40 million for a striker that's had 9 good months at Sassuolo, man. Let's be real.
yeah, for sure. That's another Piontek situation waiting to happen for
Yep.
whoever goes for him. But I'll go back to you, Ian. What do you think about the Dybala thing? I know we've talked about it, but now like that everything has, developed a little bit more. What are your thoughts?
I think Anthony really hit it on the head. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Now thinking about the financing aspect, I was always thinking about on the pitch aspect, but now thinking about the finances. Either they pay a shitload of money for their captain and soon top 10 goal scorer, who is somehow always injured and is still looking for that big break, even though he's going to be 30 this season. 30. Or they let him go and mismanage that money somewhere else. Because honestly, I don't see them doing that well in the board of directors side of things as well, because they don't have Beppe Marotta anymore. We saw how hard they fell down ever since he left, how much we've risen, and even other clubs have risen. I mean, Milan, as much as we like to tease them, they have made some great moves. I think Juventus are in not so much rebuild phase, but in a slow spiral down phase that's maybe will get picked up sooner than later. So yeah, thinking about it, how Anthony said it, I pretty much agree with him. It's a win-win for us. It's a lose-lose for them.
Yeah,
we
for sure.
can't exactly table too much money for Dybala though. At the end of the day, we're still scrapping for this Brozovic contract to the point where it's clear that we can't even offer him an extra 750,000 to $1 million. We're looking to really narrow in on that 6 million, 6.5 with bonuses. So Inter does not have another 7.5 million to whack on Dybala next season. Trust me. That's why I'm saying like Marotta is sort of flexing a little bit here, and it's not a tactical 4D chess move, because this is beneath Marotta's level of negotiating, man. This is just him playing checkers, to be honest. He's just like, yeah, why not? Let's put a phone call forward. Dybala likes me. I've got this sorted. It's a win-win for us. And like I think you said it, Mikey, at the start here, like we've already ripped the Band-Aid off in terms of selling players like Lukaku and Hakimi. As long as we keep the core together and Inzaghi in the back room is there, there's not a single player on this team except Bastoni and Barella who could leave, and I would absolutely lose it. It really wouldn't be the case at all. With the Dybala situation, you need to look at it like this. He's not going to take a pay cut, even if it was to come to us and Marotta. So we actually can't afford him. That's the bottom line. The only way that we would is if we were to get multiple salaries off the books, but we already plan to get these salaries off the books anyway. It's not like we were going to keep Sanchez, keep Vidal, keep Vecino. We know Eriksen's gone. Ivan Perisic has been our borderline best player this season, and we're still happy for him to walk away. That goes to show the level of our contract situation. It's not good. It's not ideal, because otherwise we would have offered Ivan Perisic a new contract for a couple of years with an extra $1.5 million if he wanted it. Because even though given his age, look at the way the guy performs athletically. I mean, this guy's physiology is almost unmatched in the league. So while I don't think we stand a chance at getting Dybala, we're going to flex it till the last minute to make sure Juve bleed for him.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of the Kulusevski situation where, there was a bidding war there between us and Juventus, and it eventually ended with him choosing Sarri, but he left really quickly and they got saddled with that guy who's still a decent player, but he definitely wasn't worth what was paid. But yeah, looking ahead though, like this upcoming week after, a week of 3 matches, 3, really headline matches, we do have, it kind of backs off a little bit. We have Empoli at home in the Coppa and then Venezia at home. So I think, it's a good little stretch to catch your breath.
Yeah, we saw today, I think Brozovic had a couple of, not even that, I think the whole midfield needs a break. We really need to put our subs to work, because Barella was placing passes wherever Brozovic had to at Kung Fu style to just get the ball. Kahanoglu wasn't really that good when it came to passes, in my opinion. Like, yeah, obviously he had his moments, but still, we really need to put our subs to work. If Vecino really wants to leave and get that club in Europe that wants him next season, like top 5 leagues, we need to put him out, and he needs to perform. If not against Empoli, then who is he going to perform against? Like, come on, it doesn't get much easier than that against Venezia and Empoli.
I could see him against Empoli. I don't think he'll get another league start. I think Vecino and Sensi are, effectively out the door. Sensi probably just temporarily, but Vecino, 100% out the door.
True, yeah.
I could see that happening against Empoli, like I said, but either way, like that's 2 matches that you need to get wins out of and then go into this break, and get ready for a derby. Anthony, what do you expect in terms of, rotation of the squad for these 2 matches? Are we going to see a lot of guys we don't usually see, like Ian's saying?
Yeah, especially for the Empoli game, man. You need to rotate through the arse for that one. You need to make sure that a lot of players are getting maximal rest for Venezia, because even though Venezia isn't the toughest team in the world, this is what you call a routine 3 points if you want to be champions. You want to hold up to a Scudetto at the end of the season, you make sure you beat Venezia at home. It's more important than the Atalanta game. And people might think, what the hell is this guy talking about? It's not a big game. False. If you want to win the Scudetto, these are the biggest games. The biggest games are the ones outside the direct top 4 games. You beat every team beneath you. I know when you come first, you're supposed to beat every team beneath you, but you guys know what I mean. Outside that top 4, top 6, you win all of those games, you probably win the league at the end of the season. And knowing us, we've only lost to Lazio. I don't actually think we're going to lose a big game for the rest of the season. I don't think we'll lose the derby. I don't think we'll lose to Napoli. I think the worst that we come out with is a draw in those games. So as long as we can stick to the routine and beat all these sides in Serie A that we know we need to beat, we should be fine. In my opinion, we go to the Coppa. It's round of 16, so it's okay to put your Ranocchias, your D'Ambrosios, everybody except Kolarov, I reckon, is going to get some rotated minutes there. And even then, you can't play Kolarov, even against Empoli. That guy's completely finished. So whatever happens against Empoli happens. It would be nice to progress, but I'm only going to... We just won the Scudetto, boys. So when you win the Scudetto, you look at the Coppa Italia when you get to the quarterfinals or the semi-finals after that, because at the moment, that's just going to have to take the back burner. And in previous years, obviously, in context to your expectations, the Coppa Italia can be an amazing trophy. And it still would be if we won it this season, but priorities are priorities, and let's just keep in mind we're in the round of 16 of the Champions League for the first time in God knows how long, and that's going to have to take some attention as well. So for me personally, if we get 3 points at Venezia, I really don't. It's not that I don't care what happens at Empoli. The Empoli game is before Venezia, so this is hindsight talking, but just get all the points in Serie A. I don't care about the Coppa at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, and Inzaghi, is he's a Copa, I would call him a Copa specialist, borderline at least. I mean, he's always doing well with, less in that competition. So, I'm not too worried about that, at least from a tactical perspective. Empoli had a tough match against Venezia. It was either this morning or yesterday. So they'll probably be rotating as well. They'll be trying to focus on, staying in the league, even though they're doing really well this season. But yeah, their focus would definitely be the league. But I think those are 2 wins where we'll see some players we haven't been seeing. I think we'll see some more of Darmian. We'll see, like you said, Ranocchia, D'Ambrosio. I think Kolarov has like a back issue that they're talking about ending his career. So yeah, I'm definitely not seeing him. So yeah, I'm not really too worried about those. I think those are the kinds of matches that we were getting used to, like a month ago, where we could just sit back and be like, all right, scroll Twitter, talk to somebody about the match happening in front of us, and not like, edge of your seat worried about dropping points. What do we have going on? Nothing. Really.
Just sorry if I just say, be wary of the South American international duty that's coming up in between these games, because also it's important to know that Argentina play Colombia 4 days before the derby, I think. So that Juan Cuadrado is out to break legs in that game. He doesn't care about the result for his country. Juan Cuadrado was put on this planet Earth to do one thing and one thing only, and that was to with Inter players.
That is 100% true. That is 100% true. We've seen him do it to Alexis Sanchez. We've just seen his existence for 5-6 years now that he's been at Juventus, maybe even longer. I can't remember. Dude seems like he was born at Juventus and has been there my entire life. But oh my, yeah, and that also like the jet lag and everything that comes from that. There's also, I think, Argentina. It's either Argentina or Chile has a match with Bolivia in Bolivia, and that's one of the toughest places to go. Yeah, the altitude and all that going out there, so that's going to be really rough. I know Vidal can't go because he tried to kill someone in the last Chile match.
He was actually really good off the bench today, man. If there was one person that looked like they were going to break it for us, it was him. He looked good.
Yeah, I was surprised. You know, he didn't look too great coming on in the Supercopa. There were a couple of performances before that where they weren't up to par for me, like especially with the beginning of the season that he had. But I mean, if he can, you know, keep some form, keep some fitness, that'll be huge for us in this upcoming month of insane fixtures, like coming back after the break. Milan, Napoli, Liverpool, Sassuolo. That's a murderer's row, about the biggest one you could have. So
yep,
it's gonna be a big test, and having someone like that'll be huge. Hopefully Alexis Sanchez doesn't go and get his customary injury in South America. If he did, I guess, you know, that would be more time for Correa and Lautaro, given they don't have some kind of issue out there either. If Cuadrado doesn't get to him first, like you said, Anthony.
Yep.
It's a lot going forward that is a lot of ifs and a lot of hope. And at the end of it is that Liverpool match where we know we're without Barella. So it's, you know, it's going to be, I think, Vidal, like, really important. I'm glad you brought him up because we're going to need him. It's either going to be him or Gagliardini, and I'd rather see him over Gagliardini.
Yeah, any day of the week, really. You have to start him over Gagliardini.
Yeah, definitely. Ian, do you have anything?
I just like to ask Anthony a question since we don't get guests this often. I mean, it's more of a crystal question from the chat. Anthony, who would you get as a striker for us next season to replace Dzeko, since he's the one that's in most need of replacing in starting 11?
So it's not that I don't rate Scamacca. I think he'd be a great person to come in for Dzeko, but he's not ready to lead the line straight away, especially not for the money that's being asked for him. Raspadori has got a great finish of him, and he's a slippery character. I'd love to see Raspadori at Inter, and I know he's an Inter fan as well, but quality-wise and characteristic-wise, he's not a replacement for Dzeko at all. The one that, you know, I think is the best fit is probably this Julian Alvarez character from River Plate. And we've seen how well that these Argentine players can do when they come to Inter. I've watched a lot of his highlights now, and it's hard because I don't watch full fixtures. You know, it's very easy to make players look good on a highlight reel, especially if they score a lot of goals and they play a lot of assists. But this guy, and our friend Zil Sharma said this probably better than anybody, Julian Alvarez looks more ready for Inter than Lautaro did than when we signed him from Racing. And so if we're looking at the people that we have been linked with, realistically, then for me, it's probably Julian Alvarez. But if you're asking me a free-flowing question, Christo, and I can have a pick of the bunch in a realistic context, bruv, go and get Luis Muriel, for God's sake. I've been harping on about him for 2 years. He's the guy. He is the guy. If he's not playing week in, week out at Atalanta and he needs a change of pace and a change of scenery, man, he won't even need to blink. It's the same color shirt, baby. Bring him over. Bring Muriel over. For me personally, Zapata's probably the best option, but they're not going to let him go for 40 million at all. And he's coming of age now as well. The rest of the options that are out there are just too unrealistic. So you sort of just know by looking at what fish are in the pool who Inter are going to go for. It's going to be Scamacca, Raspadori, or Julian Alvarez. It has to be one of them, unless some name pops up out of absolutely nowhere. So there's a long answer to the short question.
Oh, no, I think you're totally right. I really, like, maybe it's just me doing my YouTube research, you know, for Alvarez, looking at the comps, now thinking of like some kind of expert on the guy. But the way he runs, just in those clips, the way he runs at defenses, I love it. Like, I really am interested in that guy. Like, I've watched a couple of River Plate games because they happen to be on Paramount Plus along with Serie A. I've watched a couple, and like, he had already killed off like the Super Classico down there, River Plate and Boca Juniors. He had already killed the match off like before I could tune in one match. So I mean, he at least there is a big game player. don't want to get too caught up and end up in like a Gabigol situation or anything like that. But I think he is ready. I think he would be really good. I like, maybe it's just because I don't see him week in, week out, the way that we see Skamaka and that we see Raspadori, but just the sexy name from somewhere else, will really get you going. So yeah, it's got me too. So I don't blame you there.
But we have to be cautious of the power of the YouTube compilation. We know what happened with Raul
Yeah, of
Mario,
course.
Gabigol.
Yeah,
Oof.
We need
Yeah,
to be
man.
cautious.
It's real.
yeah.
You have to be very cautious.
Yeah, it's so because you can never fully judge the jump from South America to Europe. You just never 100% know unless you're going and buying Neymar. Like it's hard to tell. Even some of the best looking players can just not be a fit. But this guy looks like he would be a fit. I mean, we have so many Argentinian connections. I think a deal could be done. Just like let Zanetti waltz in, sweet talk a little bit, and I think that will be our guy. But yeah, I think that's about it for us. Do we have anything else? Ian, do you have anything else?
Honestly, not really. We can just touch on these comments. King Darian says, is Barella missing 1 or 2 games? Honestly, I think for now it's still 1. Not really sure. Haven't really been paying too much attention to it, really. I don't really think any news were really about this. I don't know.
It's
Yeah,
still
I think
one.
that's
I'm pretty sure it's still one.
okay. I thought they still had to come out and officially say. I didn't know if that was a UEFA ruling.
Yeah. Christo says, Fede just said Juventus can't offer 8
Cannot.
million
Yeah.
plus 2 to Dybala, so either he lowers his demands or he leaves.
Well, we can't offer that to him either now. So
I mean,
We
have
can't
to.
offer. You can't offer a Juventino any more than you've just offered Brozovic, pretty much, man. What sort of
yeah,
message does that send to these guys
yeah.
who have been slagging and really slugging it out for a pay rise? And then what? A Juventini walks in and you just offer him as the highest paid player in the club? Beppe Marotta knows better than that. I hope he does. I think he does.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah. I don't think that kind of mistake would be something that Beppe Marotta in his right mind would ever do.
And even Indahari said it here great in the comments. It's a really good point. Dybala wage is going to cut the budget for replacing Vidal and Vecino. Means it's weakening our midfield while strengthening our forward line, which I think it's true. It is true.
Yeah, there's still going to be major work to be done on the midfield in the summer, which is something we don't talk about as much because we're always worried about the striker because that is something we see more often. But there is going to be depth in the midfield when you're talking about Vecino gone, you're talking about Vidal gone, you're talking about possibly Sensi gone. Like those guys have to be replaced. You can't go into next season with just Gagliardini on your bench. Like there's going to be work to be done there. It's going to be interesting. Like now that we have the management locked down, I think they'll be getting to work, and we're going to find some interesting names that I don't think we thought of recently. I think there will be some new names coming out. But Anthony, I know you got to leave us soon. We're pretty much gonna call it soon too. Not too much going on. We've really been grinding these past couple of weeks on the Brothers of the World pod. Been having a lot of episodes, kind of, running out of things to talk about at this point. But thanks so much for having or coming on with us. Do you have anything you want to plug? I know Interworldwide's always doing some good stuff. I know you're always on there and you're always on with Sharma.
You guys are doing a great thing, man. Keep it up. Everybody make sure you're liking and subscribing to the Brothers of the World. Yourself, myself, Sharma, we do what we can for the Inter community and we all love it. So if anybody wants to head over to the Inter Worldwide YouTube channel, give us a follow and a like and subscribe for some more Inter content. And yeah, keep it up, boys. Really enjoying your content. Always a loyal listener. And Forza Inter, man. I think we're still in for a good season.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate the kind words. I'm always around, listening to you guys, watching you guys as well, Interworldwide and Sharma, making sure, everyone eats here. English Inter content, we're doing all we can. We're carrying a lot for these guys. But thanks so much. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to the chat. I know I see Figo here. I'll say what's up, Figo. And on that note, we'll end it and we'll see you guys